Good morning, boys and girls. Today is Thursday, the 18th of June, and today we're going to be revising verbs. Can you remember what verbs are? Well, just in case you can't, let's watch a little video to get our brains thinking clearly and focusing on verbs.
Understanding action verbs, physical actions. At Grammar Songs by Melissa. It is important to understand action verbs when you read, speak, or write. Verbs are action words. Often these actions can be physical movements that you can easily see or sometimes hear. For example, it's easy to see a ball bounce or a bunny hop. And you can hear a person sing or a baby cry. Verbs are words that we use to give movement or action to our nouns when we read, speak, or write. Without verbs, there would be no action or sound. Anytime you eat, walk, talk, or even breathe, you are performing an action. So now that you know verbs are action words, let's practice finding the verb in some simple sentences. The boy threw the football. When I read this sentence, I get a picture in my head of a boy and a football. A boy is a person and a football is a thing, so they are the nouns in my sentence. So where's the verb? Which word shows the action? The boy threw the football. The boy threw the football. Of course, he threw the football. Threw is the action, threw is the verb. Verbs give nouns action when we read, speak, or write. Let's try another sentence. The baby drank the bottle of milk. When I read this sentence, I get a picture in my head of a baby and a bottle. A baby is a person and a bottle is a thing, so they are the nouns in my sentence. So where's the verb? Which word shows the action? The baby drank the bottle of milk. The baby drank the bottle of milk. Of course, she drank the bottle of milk. Drank is the action, drank is the verb. Verbs give nouns action when we read, speak, or write. Let's practice one more time. This sentence has more than one verb. The superhero caught the robber and put him in jail. When I read this sentence, I get a picture in my head. A superhero, a robber, and a jail. A superhero is a person, a robber is a person, and a jail is a place. So they are the nouns in my sentence. So where are the verbs? Which words show action? The superhero caught the robber and put him in jail. The superhero caught the robber and put him in jail. Of course, he caught the robber and put him in jail. Caught and put are the action words. They are my verbs. Verbs give action to my nouns when I read, speak, or write. Hooray! You get an A+ on physical action verbs. Thank you for joining me at Grammar Songs by Melissa.
Okay, so I hope by now you realize that verbs are action words or doing words. Anything that you can do is a verb. Can you sing? Can you dance? Can you play? Can you hop? Can you run? Can you talk? Can you think? Those are all verbs. So if you're not sure if something is a verb, ask yourself, can I do that thing? Can a person do that? And if the answer is yes, then it'll be a verb. All right, so let's just have a look at this picture on the screen now. You can see a scene. It looks like a nursery school, and there are some little children playing a variety of little games. And we're going to look at groups of children at a time to figure out what verbs or actions those children are performing. Right, so let's start with the little boy on the rocking horse and the girl standing next to him, looking very unimpressed. So on your whiteboards, I would like you to write down whatever verbs could be related to those two children. Okay, so think, what is the boy doing? What is the girl doing? You can have 3 answers, 4 answers. It doesn't have to be limited. There's no right or wrong in this case, as long as it is a verb and it actually is talking about what those kids are doing. Okay, so press pause and on your whiteboards, write down the verbs about those two children. Okay, so if I had a look at it, I thought rocking, the boy is rocking on the horse. Moaning, The girl looks like she is moaning to the boy, perhaps telling him, your time is up, get off, it's my turn. She's having a fat moan. Dreaming, I said dreaming because the boy's got his eyes closed and he looks like he's in dreamland. Does it look like he's even listening to the girl? No, doesn't even look like he's concentrating on her at all. And the last one that I thought of was waving because he's got his hand out, and you could have said pointing, anything to do with what that boy is doing, that gesture. Okay, so those were my ideas. Your ideas could have been different as long as they are doing words. Okay, let's have a look at the next two. And that's the little girl and boy sort of in the middle of the carpet building blocks. Okay, so write down any verbs that you can see related to what those two children are doing. Press pause while you do so. Right, so the ones that I could think of, playing, they're playing. Sharing, because the little boy is passing the girl a block. Smiling, these children look very happy, they're both smiling. And then building, they're building towers or rockets or something like that. So those were my 4 verbs. I wonder if we got any the same. Let's move on. Right, these next 2 children are definitely not having fun. They look like they are arguing about something most definitely, and neither of them look particularly happy, do they? So what verbs would you say relate to these 2 children and the way they are interacting? Write them down on your whiteboard. Okay, so I thought fighting, hitting, screaming, hurting. Pretty negative verbs, not fun things that you want to be doing, but that's what it looks like is happening on that corner of the carpet. That is definitely not a happy situation there. I wonder if you got any of those verbs. I'm sure you did. All right, let's move on to the next 2 children, and that is the teacher and the little girl with the boy off to the side. Okay, so write down the verbs that you could think would relate to the teacher and that little girl and boy. Okay, so I said talking. The teacher and the little girl are clearly discussing something, talking. Pointing. The little girl is pointing at something. Explaining. She might be explaining what happened. And the boy on the side, he's watching. He does look a little bit concerned. He doesn't look very happy, does he? But he is just watching on. Perhaps something happened between the girl and the boy, and the teacher's intervening and trying to solve it. Okay, and the last 2. All right, so we've got the little boy bouncing on his ball and the other boy watching. What verbs could you say relate to that picture? All right, so I said bouncing. I think I said it before. I gave you a hint. He's bouncing on that ball. The little boy to the left is definitely sulking. He does not look happy. However, the boy on the ball is smiling. He looks full of joy. So his action is smiling. You could also say that the boy on the side to the left is frowning. Okay, he looks very grumpy. He's frowning, sulking, hands to the side. He looks angry. All right, so that is our verb picture. And I hope you've got your brain now thinking about all these actions, all these things that people do, these verbs. All right, let's move on to our poem. This poem is called Play. I want you to press pause and I want you to read this poem in your head, please. Okay, so I'm sure you've read the poem by now. If you haven't, press pause and do that. And now we can read it together. So as I said, the title of the poem is Play, and the poet, the person who wrote the poem, is Lil Pluta. Okay, so the poem says, I jump, I shake, I dance, I hop, I like to move, I cannot stop. I scoot and roll across the floor, I spin in circles, out the door. I run outside, I leap, I skip, I bounce, I slide, I swing, I flip. But I'm still careful. Okay, so I'm sure that when you were listening to that poem, you thought, wow, there's a lot of actions involved there. Lots of things that I can do. So remember, those are your verbs, your doing words. All right. So today, what you need to do in your English book, write down as many verbs as you can spot in the poem, or print the poem and circle the verbs in red. So it depends if you have a printer and you're able to print the poem. Otherwise, it's no problem. You will just look on the screen. I will put the slide of the poem back up, and you can simply copy down all the verbs that you spot. Okay, so let's get English books and get set up for this activity. Right, so your date is 18 June 2020. Your heading is verbs in the poem Play. All right, so write your date, write your heading, and then I'm going to put the slide back up on the next slide. It'll come up again of the poem for you to either copy, or if you have a printer, you can print the poem and you must circle the verbs in red. Here is the poem again. So what you need to do is go through the poem line by line. And if you have the poem printed, you're just going to circle the verbs in red. If you don't have the poem printed, you are just going to write down the verbs into your English book. So you don't need to write the whole poem out, just the verbs. And there will be quite a lot, boys and girls. Most lines have at least one verb. Okay, so you need to look for with eagle eyes for the things that you could do, that someone could do. What are the action words in this poem? Write them down, and when you're finished, I would like you to draw a picture of one of the verbs just to give your work that last little bit of extra wow factor. That's always a pleasure to mark. Okay, take your time, go carefully, and enjoy.